Welcome everyone. I thought I would dust off an old video of mine because I keep hearing 4 years after I published it, gas pressure next to a vacuum. This was a series of videos I used at the time of the first publishing of this video.
The single molecule is all that gravity can act on, because it doesn't have intermolecular bonds. So yeah, okay, we can give them gravity for shits and giggles. Let's say that one molecule is able to be pulled down a little bit by gravity. It needs to have a plug effect. It needs to act like a solid to be able to allow the gas molecules to bounce off it to come back to Earth. It's not a solid, it's a gas. There are no bonds. So even if we give you gravity, it isn't creating a container because it's not solid. So let's go back to the definition now for atmospheric pressure and just consider it for a moment, because this is just ridiculously retarded. And we need to laugh at these people because this is the strongest argument against them and in favour of us. And they don't like it, and this is what we need to push. Everybody needs to be a warrior on this point, because warriors, everybody loves one. So stick with me, be a warrior, and support me on this point, because it kills their model. Gas pressure doesn't exist on a ball in a vacuum of space. That's why they have atmospheric pressure. But that doesn't work either. So be a warrior with me on this and ram it down their fucking throats, because they're all pricks.
The gas is gonna fill the available volume once it becomes available.
So it seems they do know this, Wiggles. It's a law. A natural law. Not my idea. Not something that needs entertaining. A natural law. The gas would fill the space.
Yeah, wouldn't all these professors realize that?
Yeah, they do! Are you deaf?
Modern science?
Are you deaf? There's plenty of lectures on the second law of thermodynamics.
Yeah, if the second law of thermodynamics implied space doesn't exist.
It does. That's precisely what it implies.
It implies space does exist?
No. That if you have a vacuum, a vast space, then the gas would fill that space. Unless, of course, there's something to press upon. There isn't, so we can't have space. That's the point. Well done, Wiggles. That's exactly what it implies. That natural law. Not my opinion, not what I think. That natural law that holds true always. That natural law would suggest that space is fake.
So consensus science says we live on a sphere, a globe with this tiny sliver of gas pressure or atmosphere or air surrounding us. Yet this all exists next to an endless vacuum? But there is no container, no walls, no ceilings to press upon, and worse still, no divider. Well, it is simple to prove this is not reality, as with no divider, no barrier, you'd immediately lose all atmosphere on Earth to the vacuum of space. This doesn't even take into account that the Earth is said to be spinning at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. Ever been on the gravitron? As it spins, things are flung outwards. The atmosphere, the air, the gas pressure would be flung outwards, and of course, we would never even get to that point because there is no divider. There is no barrier, and hence the gas cannot even exist there to be flung outward anyway. It's long gone. The globe would have no air, no atmosphere, no gas pressure. No container, no gas pressure. No barrier, no gas pressure. And yet 99% of the world believes this vacuum of space exists directly next to the gas pressure we have on Earth, with no container, no barrier, no divider. The only thing they have is gravity that holds the gas pressure to Earth as it spins and flies through space at 2.2 million miles per hour. And yet, here we have gas pressure. I'm breathing it with every breath that I take. So the belief in a vacuum of space, an endless void of super low pressure, is simply impossible.
Well, what I want you to think about very quickly is gravity. Now, the definition of gravity is complete nonsense. You might as well have Bugs Bunny telling you what it is, because they don't know what it is. You know, it's complete horseshit, everything they give you. Gravity is very easy to figure out, I believe. And I think is a way to actually prove it. It's a simple way, too. You do it every day, pretty much. Well, not every day, but especially when you go up to the mountains or you get on a plane or anything like that. you have to pop your ears. What causes that? That's air pressure. That's all the air is denser than the air on the surface of our flat plane here. All right? So could you imagine how much pressure it is when you have to pop your ears? That's your eardrum. That's the pressure is pressurizing your eardrum, and that's why you pop your ears. That's gravity, guys. Okay? That is gravity. The enormous amount of air pressure up there that's pushing down. You know, whether there's a dome up there or a firmament, whatever it may be, all this air is trapped in here, and that's what your pressure is. That's what your gravity is. And that's what causes gravity. Because whatever's heavier than air is going to drop. It's very simple.
And it continues on through today.
Starting off on the globe Earth to remind people that we're on a globe. Let's remember where all the gravity's pulling to the center of the Earth, that amazing gravity. And we happen to set up a little test with a vacuum chamber. Okay? We've got a vacuum chamber, and inside that vacuum chamber is a smaller box, if you will, with a sealed top, and we have air in that as well. So we've got a vacuum chamber. It's got a vacuum, or it's got air right now inside of it, and so does the box sitting at the bottom. You'll see we'll pop open the front of this, and you will see the box inside of it. Let's go 3D modeler. All right, there you go. You've got basically air inside this box and the box inside of it. Only this box inside we've got sealed. So right here we've got a sealed top. We've got air floating about in here, and we are going to go ahead and start the vacuum here in a second and suck the air out of our vacuum chamber. Remember, the vacuum chamber is on Earth. Okay? It's not in space. It's not anywhere. It's on the ball Earth. And we suck out the air from the chamber. There goes the air. And we'll notice that this box remains sealed because there's still air in this box. Okay? And then we get all the stuff out of there. Get out of there. Now, we can see inside the small box, we have the molecules of air, and we electronically peel open the box. Now, we know one of two things will happen. Either A, these gas particles will enter into the vacuum and disperse amongst the vacuum. Why? Well, because high pressure goes to low pressure, and because that's the way life works. Or will this box of air stay down because of the pull of gravity? Okay? Now, nobody would answer anything other than, of course, what do we think happens? The gas will fill that space. Okay, the gas will disperse into the vacuum, not that long and right after, but there you go. The gas will take out of the box and become part of this vacuated system. Now, that alone disproves their entire model. But gravity, they tell us, is holding that air to the Earth. So if that were true, then gravity would hold the air in this little box to the Earth. End of story, period. And they can't say, oh, but Jaron, it's a gradient up to the vacuum of space. Okay. Well, then the things that are closest to the vacuum would go into the vacuum, and the vacuum would lower itself. Do you understand? It's not like the vacuum is up there and then the Earth is separate from it. It exists in the vacuum. There is no barrier on the globe Earth. If you've got no barrier, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Go figure. Look at this. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Oh, would you look at this? Just look at it. Just look at it.
Yeah, well...
What the heck is that?
It's not required.
Yes, it is.
What's it doing? If there's no pressure up there, what is it doing?
If there's no container next to a vacuum, then the pressure will equalize with the vacuum.
There's no air up there. It's not doing it. It's not stopping any air particles.
Do you know how strong the vacuum is in space? It's huge. Yeah. We can recreate vacuum here. We can recreate a vacuum on Earth, and we need concrete walls like this. Right? So yes, we do, to hold it, because it's so strong. And the one in space is claimed to be almost double that.
Yeah. Do you understand?
Why, if we don't have a physical barrier between air pressure, why would it not equalize?
Because we have a downward acceleration. If we have a vacuum chamber, right, a little Perspex vacuum chamber, and we get it down to 0.001 torr, whatever, right? Something very close to zero, but only 2 or 3 decimal places, right? We've got 14.7 psi on the out and very close to zero, but only about 3 decimal places on the inside. The pressure differential between the outside and the inside is 14.7.
Did you just say you needed a container to make a vacuum?
We've got a Perspex vacuum chamber. I didn't say we don't. Don't put words in my mouth.
So you need a container to make a vacuum.
On the surface of Earth, yes.
Oh, so but in magical space, no, right?
Space is not magic.
Space doesn't exist. Also, though, this is another topic. The direct antecedent to gas pressure is a container. To have a contained gas pressure system with a PSI that's measurable, you have to have a container. So we cannot have our magical atmosphere that has a PSI coexisting next to the vacuum of space, which is 10 to the negative 17 torr. That not only defies all the laws of thermodynamics and entropy, but it defies common sense. This is what we see here. These two systems, without a barrier in between them, would be seeking equilibrium with each other violently. That's all that we see in nature. I would love to see one reproducible experiment other than just saying the atmosphere, like Globy McGlobeface did and all these other clowns on TikTok. We have to have a container to have a pressurized system. You cannot have a vacuum coexist next to a pressurized system without them seeking equilibrium violently. They don't just coexist next to each other while we shoot through a vacuum at 500,000 miles an hour, 4.9 billion miles a year.
That's just a small sampling of the willful ignorance on the part of flat earthers and anti-globers. I did my own test of our pressure gradient atmosphere almost 4 years ago. My family and I took a trip over the Sierra Nevada mountains using Interstate 80 in February 2020. This recording is from our destination back west to our home. Knowing we were taking this trip in advance, I felt that this was the perfect opportunity to test that the Earth's atmosphere is atmospheric pressure or a pressure gradient and not gas pressure, as some people claim. Our starting destination was 5 meters above sea level, with our ending destination being 1,341 meters above sea level. Our highest altitude reached was 2,204 meters at Donner Summit. That altitude is approximate, as the difference between the two sides of the interstate is 3.66 meters. The items of this test were, of course, the cell phone with the Theodolite app, which took pictures overlaying the GPS coordinates, time, and date, an empty plastic water bottle, and a yellow balloon devoid of as much air as possible. Once I took all the pictures there and back and was safely back home, I put together this video. Now here it is, almost 4 years later, and I keep hearing some claiming that the Earth is not a globe, saying that we globers claim gas pressure next to a vacuum? Has anyone ever heard of those of us knowing the Earth is a globe saying that? I haven't. Anyway, I input the GPS coordinates into a GPS to map converter to show each location of each picture with altitude. I then input that data into a pressure at altitude calculator to show the approximate air pressure of each altitude, as the purpose of this test was to show that air pressure decreases with altitude. Here we are picking up a few things before we leave on our trip over the mountains. The date is February 14th, 2020, and it's 6:30 p.m. Our altitude is 5 meters or 16.4 feet above sea level, and the atmospheric pressure is 14.69 psi. As you can see, the balloon has almost no air in it. Cut to our next location, where we stopped to eat dinner before heading over the mountains. It is 9:06 p.m. We are at 419 meters or 1,374.7 feet above sea level, and the atmospheric pressure is 13.84 psi. Here we are at 9:28 p.m., a little further up the mountain at 795 meters or 2,608.3 feet above sea level, and the atmospheric pressure is 13.12 psi. Even further up the mountain at 9:42 p.m., and we are at 1,241 meters or 4,071.5 feet above sea level with an atmospheric pressure of 12.32 psi. It was at this point that I noticed something interesting with the balloon and managed to record it on the way back. Still further up the mountain at 9:45 p.m., the altitude is 1,435 meters or 4,708 feet above sea level with an atmospheric pressure of 12.31 psi. We finally reached Donner Summit at 11:28 p.m., and we are at 2,204 meters or 7,231 feet above sea level with an atmospheric pressure of 10.73 psi. I find it amazing how Earth's atmosphere is gas pressure next to a vacuum proponents view how our atmosphere should behave. They see it like this tanker having its air forcibly evacuated and imploding. Or like the Megamaid scene in Spaceballs.
Megamaid. Good! Remarkable. Now, commence Operation VacuSuck. Suck! Suck! Suck!
But in reality, none of that happens. Here is what really happens.
Пожалуйста, не волнуйтесь, у нас все в порядке. Мы сейчас с вами в том самом бытовом отсеке корабля «Союз МС-09», где было зафиксировано падение давления воздуха. Как видите, мы спокойно здесь находимся без скафандров, никто дырку пальцем не затыкает, как пишут это в СМИ. Сейчас и вы все сами увидите. Так что, как видите, у нас на борту все спокойно. Живем мы, как всегда, мирно и дружно. Эксперименты выполняются в штатном режиме. В районе так называемого АСУ.
It seems that flat earthers and anti-globers will stick to the tried and not so true talking points to disprove the Earth being an oblate spheroid. And it seems like they won't stop for the foreseeable future, or maybe even longer. Don't forget to do all the YouTubey things like click the like button, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell and click all to get notified when I upload new content. Thank you for watching. You are all awesome. See you in the next video.